Hey, Truth Seeker, Zach here. 191st post. Last night, my mother called me and she expressed that she would like me to stop making so many of these videos and focus more on important things in life, which in her mind are finding a job that pays a lot of money. And my mother is no different than most American mothers. I think that's what a lot of mothers want for their children, to be financially successful. But what I keep telling my mother is that I am not motivated by these things. Money is just part of the lie to me, Truth Seeker. And that's what I want to talk about. Why recognizing truth and conspiracy is necessary. And I think one of the easiest ways to do this is just look at some of the core components of all of our lives. So I have the topics up here: food, we all have to eat; education, all of us born in the United States of America are forced to go through the education system one way or another. And also what government and industry does to us. So let's just start with food. Food became a major point of interest for me after September 11th. I started exploring for truth in the world, and for whatever reason, I wanted to go to food because I think my instincts were already telling me something was up with food. In high school, my junior year, I was first getting the idea of becoming a vegetarian because recently in my life I'd started to eat salad. Salad was new for me maybe around freshman year of high school, as sad as that sounds. But I mean, think of me, I'm an average American kid. I grew up on macaroni and cheese, spaghetti noodles, McDonald's, like so many of us. My family didn't go out to eat much when we went out. We'd often go to McDonald's. Well, some point in high school, some hamburger just grossed me out, and I think it was from McDonald's. The patty was gray, it looked all wrong. I just decided I didn't want to eat this anymore, so I cut out hamburgers that day, and I started eating salads, and I realized I liked eating vegetables when they were together with a dressing. This was all new to me. Salads were this new, exciting thing to me. And anyway, years later, or 2, 3 years later, after September 11th, 2001, I just wanted to read and I started questing for information and knowledge. And I got a bunch of books about food and I read several of them. And out of all that I read, the one that still stands out to me the most to this day is authored by a man named John Robbins, who's the son of one of the founders of Baskin and Robbins, 31 Flavors, the ice cream franchise. In this book, if you want to check it out, it's called Diet for a New America by John Robbins. If you want to check it out, what this book does a brilliant job of is documenting all this research from after World War II about food and nutrition and human beings. And it shows you the findings of all these studies that they did extensively that went on for decades. Our government has a lot of research and knowledge on food and nutrition that they could be sharing with us. I mean, we all spend a lot of time in school, and as I read this book, what I realized is all this information was new information to me. And it got me to think about diet in a whole new way. And it made me want to become a vegetarian. And shortly after reading that book, I went hardcore. I went full on vegan, vegetarian. And I learned a lot about nutrition. But the point is, Truth Seeker, is this knowledge about food and diet and disease and illness and our well-being, it's all well researched and well understood and not presented to us at all on any level. In fact, you look at the knowledge that is out there, such as the food pyramid, and you find that it goes contrary to everything that was researched. If you're not aware, Truth Seekers, our intestines are more like animals that eat fruits and berries and vegetables than they are like animals that are carnivores. Most carnivores have intestines that are short and straight and can easily process the meat and protein. Most plant eaters, they have long back and forth intestines just like we do. And that's not to say that we're supposed to be vegetarians. That's not the argument I'm making, Truth Seeker. I don't think we have to be vegetarians. But I do think we need to eat more in tune with our body, and we all need a lot more knowledge about food. In America, we're brainwashed about food, and I'll give you a quick one. What do most of you think about rice? Rice. R-I-C-E, rice. If you ask the average American, they'll say almost within a whim, bad food, worthless food, no point in eating food, no nutrient food. Truth Seeker, that isn't true. And just using our own eyes and knowledge, we can look at this world, and it's a statistical fact. Asians live the longest out of all the people on the planet, and the primary staple of their diet is rice. So my point is that if rice was a bad food, this wouldn't be happening. Yet most Americans believe rice is a bad food. Excuse me, Truth Seekers. Sorry about that. Also, Truth Seekers, you ask most Americans what they think they need to eat. They know one word, it's protein. They think they need more and more protein. When I was a vegetarian, almost everyone expressed the same thing to me. Oh, you can't get enough protein with that diet. Well, Truth Seeker, people were telling me that while I was looking in phenomenal shape. When I was a vegetarian and vegan, I was in the best shape of my life. Muscle tone, everything. Skin, everything. I'm sad to say I'm not a vegan anymore, and I'm not even a full-on vegetarian. I try to eat mostly a vegetarian diet, but now I'm the type of person where if you serve me something, I'm going to eat it no matter what. So that's pretty much what my diet is, but I try to eat right. And just on a real general level, I mean, if you just look at food labels, 50 years ago, ingredient labels were short. They were the foods that came from the earth. Now, today, if you look at a label, it's full of man-made chemicals that most of us can't even pronounce. So we've gone from of the earth to of man-made. We've gone from organic to chemicals. And as a result, we've seen a host of new disease and illness in the world, from animals to human beings, which of course are animals. And a lot of people out there will say, oh, that's because medicine and science is becoming more advanced, so they're detecting things that they didn't detect before. I say baloney, Truth Seeker. I say the further we go away from organic and the earth, the more problems we're going to create, such as disease and illness. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Also, the reason I wrote this up here for the gematria of food is just to think about how this word's crafted with these letters. It starts with the 666 sequence. In the Bible, in Revelation, the passage about 666 has to do with what the man will calculate who sees what's coming. And that might be why food is spelled as it is, because we all know the saying, you are what you eat. So by paying attention to what you're eating, you can see what's probably going to happen with your life. And for those of you who aren't eating better, today's the day to start. By eating better, by eating more in tune with the earth, I mean, you're doing yourself a favor as well as the world. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but by eating a diet that's high in meats and animals, you're actually eating a diet that requires a lot more resources from the earth. And the easiest way to think about that is just imagine how much water and grain, grass, a cow must eat to create a pound of flesh that we will then consume in the store. A pound of animal flesh takes, countless gallons of water and countless pounds of other food that could have otherwise been eaten by humans. So my point is that eating a diet high in meat is eating a diet that's highly inefficient. And the only reason we can do it as Americans, so many of us, is because our food system is a giant manipulation. I mean, you shouldn't be able to buy a hamburger at McDonald's for $1 when an organic tomato costs $3 per unit. And that's how it is for most of us. So naturally, the average human being, of course, is going to go buy the $1 hamburger or three of those hamburgers instead of one organic tomato. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't do that sometimes, truth seeker. Sometimes money is an issue for me on food, and I have to compromise as well. So we need to recognize this. If we can recognize this as a people, we can start making more changes. There can become, in neighborhoods, there can become more of a demand for organic and local produce. And then voila, next thing you know, that provides new opportunity for someone in your community to provide that service. So my point is just by making these simple changes, we can really create a better world, create some momentum. In this country, like I said, we're all forced to go to education of some sort. Most of us, the public school. Some of us, our parents, they have to homeschool us to meet the state requirements. Some wealthier kids get sent off to private school, but pretty much everyone's doing the education thing. And I am someone who's been a student as well as a teacher. I've taught in public schools, I've taught in private schools. Essentially, all schools are teaching along the lines of the same curriculum, which are curriculums based on lies. I mean, essentially everyone's getting the same manifest destiny story of the United States of America, no matter where you go to school. Christopher Columbus, the great Europeans. Our history books, they make the genocide seem okay. They make it seem just, as if it's the way it had to be. And those same history books, they make men such as Hitler, who are accused of genocides that didn't even happen, out to be evil. You know what that does, truth seeker? That shapes a false reality, a false perception, a false understanding of the world, a false understanding of your own nation. Just like teaching kids about Santa Claus, teaching kids to accept lies. It's done on a host of levels. What else happens in the school system for most of us? Conformity, peer pressure, a lot of negative influences. Most public schools aren't the best place to be. Kids learn to bully each other. And why? It's because they're unhappy, because they're having to sit down in a classroom early in the morning, have a bunch of boring lies forced into their head, taught things in a way that can't be applied. Truth seekers, when I taught elementary school, my first year teaching was 5th grade in South Seattle. And the veteran teachers there, they told me I was in for a tough year. It was a rough school. It was hard to get parent involvement. It was hard to get student involvement. And at that time, I was pretty confident in myself. And I still remember the first day of class, or actually the second day of class, where I had them bring back their first assignment. And it was a simple assignment. I had a classroom of 29 students at the beginning of the year, I think. 28 or 29. And anyhow, only 3 kids brought their assignment back the next day. And that was really disappointing for me. I saw where my peer teachers were coming from. And so I went home that night and I thought about it. I said, how am I going to connect with these kids? What message do they need to hear? If they're this unmotivated at the beginning of the year, what's this mean for the rest of the year? So what I did is I just brought back a presentation to them on why it's important to apply yourself as a student, even if you think school's boring. And the way I connected that to them was I showed them that by building the skills that you can develop in the classroom, how the real world output comes. So what I did for them was I created 3 graphs. I showed them how someone who goes through school as a lazy person will likely go into the world and find a lazy person's job. And I described that job to them as working at a gas station or working at a fast food restaurant. And then I showed them minimum wage, if you worked 40 hours a week, how much money you would make. Then I gave them another example. I showed them a college graduate with a starting salary of $20 an hour and how much that salary looks like over the course of a week. And then I showed them that same person 3 years from then with their salary up to $40 an hour. And I showed them what that looks like over the week. And then from there, I showed them over the course of a month. And then from there, I showed them over the course of a year. And you know what? I saw it instantly. The engagement, the attention. The next day, I assigned a simple assignment talking about what we discussed in class, and I asked them to work out the problems to see how much money they would make if they did X, if they did Y, if they did B. The next day, all but 2 kids in class turned in that assignment, when just a day earlier, 3 out of 28 or 29 had turned back in their homework. And it was just that simple of a connection. And from that day on, I just made a point in every lesson to show them how it applied to their real world circumstance. And I went with that theme throughout the year of being these different types of people. And I'll tell you what, it worked. Unfortunately, I hate standardized testing, and it's a big part of the reason I left public school. But that year, my classroom, there were 4 other 5th grade classrooms. That year, my class scored substantially higher than the other 5th grade teachers' classrooms in reading and in mathematics. And what was sad is my position was not renewed for the next year. We had the best scores in the grade, and my position was not renewed. Our principal's last name was Turner, and back then I didn't know gematria, but that is a 33 name. And I always wondered how that person got to be where they were. I guess my whole point is, Truth Seeker, is that our education system is bunk. Almost all teachers have given up and quit themselves. Everyone knows it's a bad system, yet we continue to send our children there. They continue to learn from people they shouldn't have to learn from. And why? It's because we fail to recognize the truth in the conspiracy that's waged against us. The reason they pay teachers low wages is obvious. Anyone who's taught, who's a good teacher, knows that there are a lot of bums in the public education system. And if you're a fellow teacher out there who doesn't like me saying that, I say tough luck to you. There are a lot of bums in public education. And it's part of the conspiracy. It's part of what's waged against us. That's why they pay garbage men and post office workers more money than they do teachers. Did you know that? That our government mailmen make more money than the teachers? It's true, Truth Seeker. Think about that. Your government wants to pay more money to the man who delivers mail than a teacher. Think about it. How do I know that's true? Because my buddy's a mailman. He made a lot better money than me while I was teaching. What a joke. What a joke. And then just think about government. A lot of people in this country, they think it's government versus industry. They think it's government versus corporation. These people are tricked by the false duality, just like Republicans and Democrats. In this world, government and industry are the same thing. They're synonymous. They try to create the illusion that they're separate. It's just so obvious when you really think about it. I mean, who invented the corporation? The government did, not vice versa. The government invented the corporation. And some people want to say that corporations grew out of control. No. That was all part of the plan, Truth Seeker. Think about what they do to us. From the minute we're born, we're stamped with a number to track us. And why do they track us? They track us to make sure we're going through their education system. They track us to make sure that we're paying our tax dollars to their government. They track us like commodities. That's essentially what we are. We're mice in a giant laboratory for these people. They have turned us into slavery. They have turned us into slaves, I should say. We live in slavery. We live in well-organized, very creative slavery. If you disagree, what, are you going to say that we're free? No, we're not free. We have to go experience this education. We have to go learn these lies. We have to be tested and graded on these lies. We have to get good at these lies so that we can go on and move to the next level, which is what? A career? Why? So that we can pay our tax revenues to the government. And almost all of us living in this country roughly pay half of our wages away each year in taxes and fees. When you start calculating income tax, sales tax, property tax, all the taxes on everything from cell phones to cable, to what have you. There are so many taxes and fees, tolls on bridges, tolls on roads, fees left and right, truth seeker, and for what? Look up above at your sky. There's planes spraying chemicals all over this entire nation right now, 24/7. Think about that. That's what our labor, that's one of the many things that our labor has turned into. Chemical spray above our skies. What else? False school shootings, false news, unnecessary wars, banker bailouts, the salaries of our elected officials who are nothing more than actors and liars and traitors, deceitful people. Think about what the governments of the world are doing, you guys, in industry. Aren't they abusing all life on this planet? Destroying the oceans, destroying the forests, destroying species left and right. And what have they done to us, we human beings? What have they done to us? Lied to us from the beginning. Make us work for low wages, long hours. I mean, part of the reason that nobody reacts, truth seeker, is because we're all so burnt out from all this that we've been through. From cradle to the grave, we've been under their thumb. At 5 years old, we get stuck in the classroom. If you go all the way through college, you don't get out until your early 20s, some people later. And then what? Right away, you got to jump into the workforce to pay off most of the debt you accumulated while in school. This is well-organized slavery. This is being denied truth your whole life. Do you realize that, truth seeker, that we've been denied truth our whole life? All by design. We've been poisoned, lied to, abused. And I think almost everybody knows this. I think almost everybody agrees with this. But then when you start to show many of these people who know this, the conspiracy behind it and what's being done, that's when they shut down and say, and call the person telling them this that they're crazy. Why is that happening? That's what we have to stop doing. We have to recognize truth and that revealing conspiracy is necessary. Whether you read the Bible or not, there's a passage in it, John 8:32. Depending on translation, the wording can be a little bit different. But it says, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." That passage is John 8:32. With simple English gematria, John has a gematria of 47 alone. Remember, Jesus is 74, the opposite of John. But anyway, if you reduce John in Pythagorean gematria, J becomes 1, O becomes 6, H becomes 8, N becomes 5, and then 832, if you add up all these numbers together, it sums to 33. Could the truth be as simple as that, truth seeker? We have 33 vertebrae in our back. The first book in the Bible is Genesis. It has a gematria of 33. So much of what I have revealed within these video posts and on my written blog is that all of our information and understanding is coded with these same numbers, the same gematria, and so much of it's 33. Big Bang equals 33. Darwin equals 33. So much more than that. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And like I said, Genesis, the first book in the Bible, sums to 33. All right, truth seekers. That's mostly my message. I just wanted to talk about the bigger picture, less about the numbers. Why recognizing this is important and why speaking out about it is important. Last night, my mom essentially asked me to stop doing this because she believes that there's no hope in this world. So all you can do is look out for yourself. And again, what my mom thinks, I know that's the norm. That's what most people in this country think. If there was a survey agreeing with my mother or me, I think most people would agree with my mother. But that's where we got to change, Truth Seeker, and only you and I and people like us are going to change it. We have to change people's minds. We have to change our own mother's minds. We have to change our father's minds, our brothers, sisters, friends, everybody. Even though my mom said this last night, I know she also sees where I'm coming from. She just wants me to be happy and successful. And she thinks this is too hard of a road to go down. But we got to go down some hard roads, Truth Seekers. You know why? For our children. I should have wrote children up here. I should have wrote the word children, you guys. Because like I said right here, what's going on right now is turning all of humanity into slaves. Organized slavery. That means that every child born into this world is a new slave, unfortunately. I don't want to think about it that way, but I recognize that's the truth, Truth Seeker. I recognize that's the truth. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this little rant of mine, little information session, little perspective sharing. If any of you disagree with me on anything, I would love to hear that. I'm open to people to disagree with me. I always respect another opinion as long as it's delivered respectfully. All right, Truth Seekers. Till next time.